Are we good? Who in here can relate to this picture? So her hands are gripped really tightly on the steering wheel. Her hair is all over the place. Her eyes are open and just bloodshot. This is a popular meme on the internet of Cruella de Vil, and she looks like she is out of control. And it says on there that this is me trying to excel in my career, maintain a social life, drink enough water, exercise, text everyone back, stay sane, survive, and be happy. Have you felt like this before? That you are just trying to be a plate spinner, a ball juggler. You are bulldozing through life, all while trying to have a smile on your face. Like you have it all under control. Have you ever bought into the lie that you on your own can do it all? Have you ever felt like if you confess that you need help, it shows weakness? Ladies, I'm here to tell you that we can't do it all. I'm here to tell you that God can. And so today we are going to jump into Acts 17, verses 24 and 25. And we're picking up in Acts. This is a sermon from Paul, and he is engaging with the Athenians in the marketplace. So it's kind of our modern day equivalent if we were to go to a coffee shop and just engage with a stranger about, hey, what do you believe? What do you believe about God? And then here, let me tell you about my one true God. So his whole thrust of his message is to say, this is the one true God, and here's what it means for you. So today we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's look at the text. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. So Paul begins to introduce the one true God who made the world and everything in it. The text states he is Lord of heaven and earth. So God created all, and therefore he is ruling all. Verse 25 continues, and he's just continuing to reveal who God is and points out he is not served by human hands as though he needed anything. So because God is creator and sustainer of all things, he himself is created and sustained by none. God is out there, not on a quest to receive anything from us. He, in and of himself, is complete. He doesn't need aid or sustenance from anything. Think about that. God has never once had a need. Now that's crazy, right? Never once has he had a need. And so there is tons that we can pull from that. But perhaps one of the most freeing things is that he doesn't need us. So he's not on a quest to receive glory, to receive praise, or to receive love from us because he's fulfilled in and of himself. So our inconsistencies don't faze him and they don't harm him. So because he needs nothing, he's able to freely offer us love and grace, expecting nothing from us in return. And that is incredible. But why do we operate as though we cannot receive that gift? Why do we try so hard to refuse to accept help? Why do we want to believe that we can do it on our own? So let's look at the rest of verse 25. And it says, God, the creator and sustainer, gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. We are his creation, and he is our provider. You and I are not self-sufficient, but God is. God has no needs. He is self-sufficient. You and I have needs. We are not self-sufficient. We cannot do this life alone. Our American culture has placed a drastically high emphasis on independence. We view dependence as a sign of failure, as we have a lack of ambition or a flaw of some kind. Have you ever heard that old phrase that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just keep going? For some reason, we look at dependence as a bad thing, that we have to prove our worth by keep going and proving that we can do it on our own. I have been reading this book called Seculosity, and the author, David Zahl, is unpacking why do Americans put pressure on ourselves to prove that we can do it on our own. And he states this saying, One failure may be all it takes to confirm whatever deeper doubt we have about ourselves. And in a state of mind exasperated by depression, self-harm is merely an instance of the damnation already enacted upon us. So he is shining a light that we as humans would go to drastic lengths to prove that we don't need help. That's crazy. He's talking about suicide and self-harm here, but how often do we ignore our own needs just to prove that we can do it on our own? Have you ever felt like you're in a place where all the balls are just going to crash? The plates that you're spinning are going to come tumbling down? That you are in such, just so stuck that you don't know what to do? I felt like that. As I was working on this message, life just got really hard really quickly. It was full of situations that I didn't know how to handle. And I didn't know what to do. I was stuck. A week before Thanksgiving, my grandmother passed away. So I had built up in my mind that I was going to go home for Thanksgiving and just get rest and enjoyment. And quickly that turned into something else. And then I came back to Dallas and we just met with a couple of people who I really love in really dark places. And I'm a feeler, y'all, okay? So when people I love are hurting and struggling, I hurt and struggle. And so I was just so overwhelmed by so many things, I couldn't process anything at all. I didn't know what to do. And so I wish I could stand here and tell you that I immediately recognized, hey, I'm in trouble, and asked for help. But I didn't. That's not what I did. Instead, I just kept trying to push through it. I just told myself, Jesse, eventually you're going to snap out of it and you can pull it all together. You will be fine. But what happened was I just ended up avoiding the fact that I was getting nowhere. And I was in a really rough spot. But help came in the form of an angel called Dr. Edwards. And instead, she reached out to me and she was able to help me work past being stuck in that mental block that I had. What a beautiful thing, that even when I didn't recognize my own needs, that someone else did and offered to help. You know, I see this happen in a lot of different ways. Sometimes we deny our need for help and ignore health issues because we want to deny that we need medical attention. Other times we deny our need for rest by staying up really late working on a paper that we feel like we have to finish. Other times on Sunday morning, we slap a smile on our face, denying our need for authenticity. Other times, we remain in a really dark, unhealthy place because we're denying our need for professional help. I don't know why we do this. Maybe it's shame, maybe it's embarrassment, maybe it's pride. But we have to understand that we have needs, and that's okay. Ladies, God is self-sufficient, so we don't have to be. We were created to need God and created to need others. Genesis 1 confirms this. Adam and Eve were created with needs. Before sin even entered into the world, they had needs. They had to rely on God for light. They had to rely on God for food. God even saw Adam's need for companionship and created Eve. So we have needs, and that is okay. Better yet, it is intended and perfectly designed for us to have needs. We don't understand why, but we do, and that's okay. My church's mission statement emphasizes this, and they say there's unexpected joy and desperate dependence on Jesus. There is something truly beautiful and unexpectedly joyous about being dependent on God and others. We are created with needs, and that is okay. And how comforting is it to realize that we are depending on the one who created all things and is sustaining all things, because he is creator and ruler. So what are some signs that we can look to unmask where we're trying to be self-sufficient? Where are we denying that we have needs? So in preparing for this, I was reading Jen Wilkins' book, None Like Him, and she has a whole chapter about self-sufficiency. And she listed some tells of areas that we are denying our need for God and our need for others. So if you look on your paper, there have these tells listed. And as we go through them, I want to challenge you. Mark off one or two areas where you are not denying, where you are denying your need for God or denying your need for others. So first, we can deny our need for God when we are ceasing to pray. So if we believe that we are our ultimate provider, why in the world would we go to prayer and ask God to meet a need? Or are we quick to not praise him for needs that he has already met? So are you praying to him? The next, we're denying our need for God when we forget areas that God has undeniably provided for us. Over and over in Scripture, we are told to remember God's faithfulness. Remember, remember, remember. So are we forgetting what God has done? We are denying our needs for God when we are angry in trials, when we are unable to count our trials as joy, especially in hard circumstances where our trials and circumstances expose our needs for God and our needs for others. Lastly, we deny our need for God when we lack conviction of personal sin. So have you gotten to that place when you hear a message or one of the 10 that you've already heard today, and you're like, wow, I can think of someone who really needs to help in this area. But we're avoiding our own need, and we don't want to admit that we're struggling here too. Next list, where are we denying our need for others? Are we avoiding Christian community? If we believe that we don't need help, we are prioritizing authentic relationships. So are you avoiding community? We deny our needs for others when we're concealing. So are you just going about your life and idolizing autonomy and image so much that you can't confess to others where you're really at and where you're really struggling? Next, we deny our need for others when we lack accountability and or humility. Have you bought into the lie that you have this, that you don't need help? Lastly, we deny our needs for others when we are exhausted. Are you exhausted? Have you denied your need for help so much that you have overextended your own emotional and physical resources, all because we are afraid to ask for help? This is a convicting list, right? I know as I was reading it, I was like, wow. Y'all, it took tragedy in my life in the past 3 weeks to realize that I was operating as though I was self-sufficient. Or at least I was using every single ounce of energy in me to become self-sufficient, to buy into the fact that I don't need help.
Okay. A little cards up. Keep going.
So we don't have to be like Corella Deville. We can set aside the plate spinning and the ball juggling, and we can give up control to the God who is self-sufficient, who is our creator and is ruling all things.